What's up? So, something that I know about myself is that, growing up and all through my life, like, I wanted to be liked, right? I cared what people think of me, and it's like, avoid conflict, had like that people pleaser thing going on, which is common with uh, a lot of alcoholics. I come to learn, which I'm not talking about that really, uh, but yeah, it could be a reason why I drank so much. Um, and I think I I am likable, like from what I've gathered, but it's because I made it so that I am. I do see people who are like who don't care what other people think, and they have that more confidence and stuff like that. And sometimes I think I'd like to be that way. Um, but anyway, the point is that's something that I recognize about myself. Um, yeah, I want to be liked. And so a few years ago, when I started making these videos, well, first before I started making the videos, I knew that if I do this, then people aren't gonna like me. And it took a lot to break through that. Um, because not even that it was like when you start speaking about the truth, because that was the main thing. I was like, people hate the truth, and I knew I wasn't gonna make the videos if they weren't about the truth. I wasn't gonna just come on here and voice my opinion and my beliefs. I wanted to stick to the truth. But aside from not being liked, I was like, people are gonna think I'm crazy. um, and I knew that I was gonna have to deal with that. Um, and I figured that I care too much to stay quiet. Um, because I really would like to see it. You know what? I know I'm not gonna see it, um, but I would like to be someone who begins the consciousness moving in that direction for future generations. All right, and so like this is a message to Christians. I want to see the consciousness move to that of that Christ consciousness, where people are thinking and being in their actions more like Christ, and not pretending um, that they're not being. Um, what Christians are doing is far from the thoughts and actions of the story that of Christ. So, you know, I came across this quote a few years ago by the late great author, famous American author Mark Twain, and it goes something like, "If Jesus was alive today, there's one thing I'm sure he wouldn't be: a Christian," right? And I thought that was funny. I was really glad that I was like, he said it, because I thought that my whole life too. And then I come to discover other people like uh, one of the greatest men in American and British history and French history. Thomas Paine. He inspired both the American and French revolutions, and he has the same critical thoughts when it comes to Christianity, right? And a question for Christians is, was Jesus spreading Christianity, or was he teaching truth and morality? I don't think he was spreading Christianity. He was teaching truth and morality, and that's what got him killed, right? And then the people who killed him, like those authoritarian government religious figures, they're the ones who spread Christianity all these centuries later, to the point where I'm going to bring it to Charlie Kirk, because it's so new, it's so fresh, and he was a Christian. He was big with the Christianity, and just I always feel like I have to clear this up, that I am not on the left, I am not on the right, I am not religious, I am not a Christian. I believe in God, but I'm not. I love the story of Jesus Christ, but I'm not any of that. Okay, and so that with the Charlie Kirk, you get all that. You get the division, the polarity. Of course, the left versus right, and then the Christian nationalist takes it to another level. But then there's people on the left who are just the same in their actions and thoughts and beliefs when it comes to Jesus Christ and government, right? So the point here is, would Jesus be a Christian? That's a question. Would Jesus vote for leaders of the military industrial complex who are dropping bombs daily and murdering innocent people? Would he condone that? Would he support that? Would he say, yeah, that's just the way it is, and come up with some kind of intellectual excuses for it? And that's how I saw Charlie Kirk. Very intellectual, and he could outsmart most in a debate, and he could use his intellectual abilities to prove his points, his beliefs. But was he using his intelligence when it comes to, would Jesus be a Christian? I don't know why that's so hard to get. They talk about perspective and perception, and I'm gonna make a video about that. I got that's coming out soon. If anybody even made it this far to hear me say that. Perspective and perception, though, is gets tossed around, and there's all kinds of tricks with it to get people to believe that there's no such thing as truth. And so I'm gonna just do a video on that. That could be my message to Christians, part 2. But for this very first one, and it's not really my first one, because I've made videos about this a few times about would Jesus be a Christian? Would he vote for leaders of bomb-dropping murderers? Would he encourage you to condone that violence? Would he be down with, other people having more rights than you, like being allowed to steal your money and use it to those ends, those violent means? Would he approve of that? That you go to work every day and your labor and your money gets contributed to an organization that murders innocent people, right? And so what happens there when I say these things, these true actions that most Americans are contributing to, they are performing these actions, and that's how I know it's true. But what you get with Christianity is, well, you were born a sinner, and if you do anything wrong like that, Jesus is gonna forgive you. And so that's where your beliefs came in, and that's the justification for all of it. On top of everything else that Christianity has programmed into us. Can you stop and think critically? What would be the most amazing thing if you really care about the future for your grandchildren, if you don't want to see this polarity, this division, the bombs dropping daily? What if you started being like Christ? What if that could be the second coming of Christ, is for the consciousness of humanity to step into that truth and morality? Because Christians, look at the world. It's always been war. It's always been division. Since Christianity's been spreading all over, and they're still looking for people to grab onto. What are the consequences of it? I mean, it doesn't look good. And what would be the consequences of being like Christ? It would be way more positive. So who are you in your deeds? Are you someone who contributes money to an organization that murders innocent children? Are you pretending that you're not? Are you making believe that that's not really what you're doing, that you are contributing to that you also do support, and you condone that violence to occur? And I know you can look for all kinds of excuses and justifications for it, and you can say, I don't see it that way, which is what I'm going to get into with perception. And then perspective is like, you can't see it from where you're standing, but you can see it. I just told you. I think you already know. I think you do know. That's my... I think you do know. And you need to be told. You need to really need to sit down with yourself and stop making believe that you're not doing that. And that's how we get to Christ consciousness. That's the toughest part, right? That I had a breakthrough, and I'm still in the system. I got work. I got more work to do. But, you know, I came to the realization in that I gotta speak the truth of what's really going on. And admit to myself that that's what I'm doing. And that's the hardest part. That's how I started this video was, yeah, you may not want to confront yourself with this stuff because people aren't gonna agree with you, and they're not gonna like you anymore. But just because they don't agree with you doesn't mean that what you're saying isn't true, because it is.